Hey everyone, fascinating chat today on the heels of RSAC. One theme that cut through the noise to shift from manual SOC operations to autonomous security systems. A lot of confusion and questions about what that actually means in practice beyond the marketing hype. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, Evan. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Really excited to speak with a real expert, an insider, innovator in this space. Maybe introduce yourself, your journey over the years at IBM, and where within IBM do you sit, and what's your mission within the company?
Yeah, sure. So, we're sitting in the services business of IBM. We call it part of IBM Consulting, and then I lead inside of our cybersecurity services practice. I lead our threat management practice, right? So all things. Find bad things and make them go away, right? That's the practice. We can shorthand it to SOC and those sorts of things. We've been on this find the bad guys journey for a long time, right? And it's been one of those things where we wrote the first rule to find something bad, and we're like, oh, that's a good idea. We should write another one. And that's right around the time where we've lost control over having humans just process everything, right? Because we can come up with more ideas to find bad things and create alerts than we could handle them, right? So we've been on this AI, ML, journey, and we can put all the buzzwords around it for quite a while. In fact, our first ML that came out in our stack was about 7 years ago.
Wow.
With a product, it really was just trying to hey, is this a false positive? Like that, just there's a lot false positives kind of stick out. Can we just create some ML that would identify that? Turns out it was also good at solving the other end of the problem, which is, hey, this is really bad too, right? So really bad and really dumb are easy things to find, and we've basically been on this journey to kind of work our way toward full stack, and that's kind of what we're working through now, and I'm sure we'll get into that in the conversation. So so I've been looking for bad guys for 25 years. So 26 technically, but let's not.
Well, thank you for your service. Interesting journey. And, at RSAC, of course, lots of buzz, both real and marketing hype around autonomous SOCs. From your unique vantage point, I mean, what's actually changing? What are people getting wrong or right about this shift?
Yeah, I mean, RSA this year was AI Fest. I mean, they could have called it AI RSC or RSA. I mean, it was a ton of work last year, and I think this is very encouraging, right? I don't want this to come out the wrong way. Last year was a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of hey, we're gonna. Right. And there were a couple of us that had a couple of things that were out there like, oh, that's truly unique and, actually using agentic AI. But there weren't a ton. Right. And this year, what 12 months can bring. Right. So we saw a lot of that. Right. And I think, the reality is still very early in this journey. Right. We've got point solutions all over the place. Right. So we've got pen testing. We've got scanning and kind of handling vulnerabilities and exposure problems. We've got, threat monitoring, right? Kind of classic SOC things. We've got, helping process investigations and incident response things. What we are doing differently a little bit is like these things need to come together, right? And so there was a lot of kind of labels that said, oh, agentic SOC or SOC-less environments and those sorts of things. We're still a little fragmented, right? So it's still very disciplined inside of threat management, and but encouraging at the same time. Like I said, I don't want it to come out the wrong way. It's some of the stuff that does it, like, oh, that's a really cool solution to that thing. The trouble is, I've got 15 other things I have to do too. So we're still in that kind of like mode. But the good news is, we think the technologies and the compute. It's always been a problem. It's there, right? We're starting to see, those couple of things come together, and maybe as the conversation goes, I can tell you a little bit more about how we're solving that. But that,
brilliant.
That was RSA. I mean, it was encouraging to see a lot of, hey, I wanna, and we're gonna, and see a lot of that actually hit a demo, which was great.
Amazing. Yeah, and tell us a bit more about your philosophy, your team's philosophy on how organizations should think about maintaining control and visibility and accountability when decisions are happening at machine speed in an autonomous environment. What is your thinking there?
Yeah, And that's a great question, right? So if we could write rules before that could flood us, imagine when the machines start doing it, right? So like humans just can't be part of a threat monitoring, solution going forward. It's just, technically we couldn't do it 5 years ago. We definitely couldn't do it. You can't do it now. And I'm not even going, good AI versus bad AI yet. That's a thing, right? But right now it's just, we can flood ourselves to the point that we need to have, this artificial, digital labor workforce, right? That helps, not assist. Like, we need it to do it, right? I don't need tier one folks staring at a pane of glass, looking at a red thing going, which one of these 12 red things should I look at first, right? I need to do them all at the same time, right? And then where we need to go past that is it needs to be fully investigated, fully transparent, all visibility. Like, how did this machine make this decision? Which, if you really think about it, who's ever asked the SOC operator to do that? It's not often, right? Hey, in forensics, hey, what the heck were you thinking here? Like, ideally, you're doing it in a lessons learned, but lessons learned time continues to shrink, right? And so, that investigation and transparency, right? You have to look at absolutely everything, because now you're in a stack. You're looking for a needle in a stack of needles, right? We just look for the needle in a stack of hay. At least it looked different, right? So this investigation piece around every IP address has to be looked at, every domain, every email address, every hash, right? Everything that sits inside of security telemetry, you got to look at it all, right? Even humans. Look, we do what we can. Like, we investigate it up until we get to the first bad one. We're like, okay, it's bad, escalate, right? Or, I've done this long enough, I'm bored, I'm moving on to the next one. This one's clearly positive, right? And neither one of those things is appropriate anymore, because because it's the first bad one doesn't talk about spread, doesn't talk about proliferation, doesn't talk like a zillion things it doesn't talk about, right? And so we see, like, there's a great use case in and around investigations, one just from a thoroughness of the investigation, but then document it. Another thing SOC analysts love to do, write reports. Not happening, right? I did it. No one writes reports, right? And then tie that whole thing up, right? You're like, okay, you've built this bottom of the pyramid. You've done all the research. You know about everything. What am I supposed to do with this? Right? Is this like, just like on the front end, like, here's 12 red things. Which one should I look at first? Now it's how do I okay, it's priority 2. So I'm not running around pushing red buttons, but I do need to respond to it in a timely fashion, right? And so that tie now out to that response, and you're feeling good about how we've gotten to this point. Well, why can't I just now orchestrate that directly to the identity system that needs to reset something, to the cloud controls, right? Why do I need to stop anywhere, right? And that's kind of where we're going. Is that it's we used to stop the SOC at escalate, and we can't, right? So find a bad thing, fully investigate, document, cool. It's all there for forensics. It gets to the end. Here's 3 recommendations. The first 2 have already been taken. Right. So that's kind of how that's how we're looking at that problem, and solving it. And really that next step for us is really kind of saying, like, well, why do I need to stop at a SOAR? Right? Why can't I just have my agents talk to those app agents? Right. And I didn't have to write the app agent, right? Like, I do my domain stuff. I know security, I know threat monitoring, but I'm not going to know how to apply every patch or configuration change. So as the individual app providers build agents that do those things, well, fantastic. We want to tap into that. And so, it really opens up, like, we used to quarantine emails, like, okay, that's neat. Well, same concept, but go do it for every app that's out there, right? So.
If you're a pet owner who wants real talk on training, behavior, and everyday life with animals, check out the Fresh Patch Podcast. Hosted by Drew and Gabe, we cover the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. So wherever you listen, search the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it.
What an amazing future. And, as the SOC becomes more invisible, so to speak, how does that fundamentally change the role of security teams? What's your perspective there?
Yeah, this is a fun topic, especially with my teams. So you can imagine, right? Like, hey, this is cool tech that we're building. What am I going to go do? What we're seeing is the one fundamental for sure, Evan, is you still have to understand the domain, right? You can't just say, oh, this is how you investigate, and we just trust the machines to go do that, right? Because every client environment's slightly different than the next. We're using the same tools, but we're configured in different ways, trying to get them to do different things, right? And so we've got this domain knowledge and expertise. The other thing is the machines need care and feeding, right? Like we're not to a point where AI is just like, oh, I get it. Snap your fingers and off you go. That's not how it works, right? You need to train, you need to tune, right? I haven't even mentioned it yet, but like, how are we staying current, right? Threat intel, right? That's a whole nother, right? How does that apply to that environment? And so what we're seeing ourselves do, like, so we've eliminated tier one, from our core services.
Oh, wow.
Classic SOC. And we're working on tier two, and we're kind of working our way the AI up the stack, right? So fully transparent, it does all these sorts of things. And so as we move the people out of those roles, they're either kind of going deep into security, threat, domain, threat intel, tying out to other components. They're going into the integration side on the response, right? Or they're kind of leaning in toward this, like, oh my gosh, we need to have a zillion agents, right? We're at 30 some odd agents today, right? We might need 200 agents. I would like to go build, tune, maintain, those sorts of things. So they're kind of, there's these upskills. And that's just what we're doing, folks, inside of threat. Because now we have something to go, like, I'm really interested in, like, untapped things like identity threat detection and response, right? Like, that's always been too much data to deal with, right? Like, I had plenty from telemetry from the network and the apps, identities, and then that's all behavioral. What a whole nother set of problems to solve. And so we've got folks who've kind of like picked up and said, I want to take my threat knowledge and I want to go apply that to identity as a classic example. We did a bunch of stuff recently there as well. So that's kind of where we see it. Like, yeah, we're displacing the stuff, but it's the stuff that no one really wants to do anyway, right? It's, who wants to stare at a console? I didn't. so I found ways to get away from that, right? Like, okay, but I need to trust what's watching it, right? I need to understand the investigations that are happening at tier two. And now as I get into three, just kind of classical SOC, right? Into those responses, still need to understand that whole piece, but I don't need to do it, right? So what supports all of that?
Brilliant. And, every enterprise that I speak with, probably you speak with, is, experimenting with automation and security operations, trialing, learning, on and on. What are some of the biggest mistakes organizations are making when they try to automate maybe too quickly?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, right? I think there's mistakes that you make that, and then there's just kind of expectations around, like, well, wait a minute, I did that, right? So kind of group one is, I really think not looking holistically enough. Like, what is it you're trying to solve? Are you trying to solve what whoever's pitching it to you, right, is trying to solve for you, right? Or are you targeting your overall program, right? Are you saying, look, my threat program needs to do X, Y, and Z. These are the three big metrics, whatever they are, right? And it could be mean time to resolve, mean time to identify, like whatever. It doesn't have to be a mean time. It could be something else. It could be coverage of your detections. Okay, great. Now you know what it is. And so I think what we see is a lot of mistake is like, oh my gosh, I'm a CISO. I've got a mandate that the whole company's going to AI and I have to be 30% or some weird, I've heard some weird stuff. But I need to have AI. This does this. I have that problem. I'm going to go do that. And then it's kind of following that in that process that we've been going through. Like, oh, here's the next security silver bullet. Here's the next security silver bullet. Like, no. Like, you have, like, AI gives us this ability to solve bigger problems, right? And I think that's my hope for RSA next year is that I go in, I see, oh, Now we're talking about it, right? This is end to end, not just one thing. So that's like when I work with some clients who've kind of like either been early adopters in AI or, like you said, just kind of orchestration, automation, right? I'm just trying to solve this sort of thing. Like I've seen some really elaborate SOARs, and they're great, but they only run 5% of the like. I mean, there were 300 run books, and like only 5% of them actually execute. Maybe not the best use of time, like right? Like I get it. We're heavily automated, but if only 60% if only 5% of those things are actually going to go, what are you doing with the rest? Like, right? So that's kind of problem one. Problem two is really just like, when you're looking at AI, like I really want folks to take it from the top down, right? This is a mindset shift, right? Like why are you running a SOC? What did you want it to do? Now, I don't want to hear about, CVE this or, MITRE attack that. Like those are hows, right? Like what is the outcome that you want that security program to do, right? And it's not just the SOC. It includes your exposure and vulnerability management, it includes your pen test, it includes on the other side, your regular response, and then your CSIRT or IR or whatever that's how you like start there. Right. And I think if I were to go rebuild a program, like those would be the sorts of things that we would kind of go look at. Like, again, I'm just trying to pigeonhole into like, my thumb hurts, I'm going to fix my thumb. Yeah, but why? Why is your thumb hurt? Like, you're like, what are you like? Is it okay that your thumb hurts because you lost your other arm? Like that's a problem,
right?
So
right.
just it's a strategic thinking of how to apply the problem. Apply the solution to the problem. And I'm not suggesting that you don't need multiple of those sorts of things. And then, but like who stitches that together? Because stitching it together is how you get to the outcome that you're going to, that's the first, like, well, why do you have a SOC? You get to, it's going to be something big, right? And when they say that, okay, now it starts to make a little bit more sense, right? And so I just think that, things like target operating models have a place and there's a reason, right? You get to get thinking bigger than one slice of one box. So,
no, these are great points, and you leave me with a very optimistic feeling talking about this vision. The flip side is, the adversaries are using these tools in the wild as well. Gen AI is everywhere, and even I personally, my little business of one, has been the subject of very sophisticated attacks as a kind of influencer. Amazing, unbelievable. I luckily didn't fall for them. But, how are you seeing the adversaries use these tools in the wild today as we speak?
Yeah, I mean, this is something like I say this all the time. Like, AI lowers barriers for everybody, right? Not just us defenders, right? Right. It's never been an easier time to be a hacker. You don't have to know code. You don't have to know the inner workings of an application. You don't have to know how networks are set up inside of corporations. You don't have to know any of that stuff. You just have to know what you want and go after it. And, clearly you're not going to go do this using, the mainstream, chat and LLMs, but there's plenty of others. There are plenty of others, right? And if it's there's an article, I guess a month ago now, like someone used AI to hack into their robot vacuum, right? Like, right, like, and that was just for fun, right? Like, oh, hey, I wonder if I can optimize the map
just for kicks.
And then you find out that the back door to the SaaS service, where they're selling the parts and cleaning supplies that the vacuum uses. Oops, right? Like,
only 250,000. Robot vacuum cleaners, that's all. Yeah.
And the guy didn't write a line of code. Right. It was all in English, right? Like, you don't have to know Java and C and Python. You don't need to know any of that stuff. You just need to say like, hey, I want to do this. Tell me more about that. Right. Like, isn't there another way around? Oh, let me go take another look. Right. LLMs are so friendly. Right. And so like, I think it's an absolute real thing. Right. So we're seeing, a researcher, break into a vacuum, but we're also seeing LLMs being hacked. Light LLM very recently, that was big news last week or so, right? Like they're injecting themselves into the CI/CD pipeline. They're not doing that by hand, right? That was something that you would have never thought. Like, oh yeah, right? Well, who helped them think of that? Well, kind of work through other ideas and like, well, try this. Again, in the language I learned when I was, learning to speak, not anything else. So yeah, so I think that is kind of the core of this, Evan, is, you've got, yes, amazing amount of compute, amazing amount of technology, and it's for everybody, right? Everybody can use this, right? So it doesn't just make my job easier.
For sure. So looking ahead, RSA 2027, 28, maybe 29, what does a mature autonomous SOC look like in terms of outcomes or expectations? What give us some scenarios?
Yeah, I love that. This is what we do all the time. We kick around like, well, what if this? So I mean, kind of current thinking is, there's like human out of the loop, through this entire kind of threat management thing, right? So go find something bad. Okay. Well, how do we find bad things? Well, we can scan for them. We can pen test for them. We can monitor consoles. Great. So you found it. Okay, cool. Investigate it. All right. And like I said, we're already there with some of the things that we're doing, from an investigation standpoint. All right. No humans in the way. Right. Like I have, high, 4 nines or 5 nines confidence in this investigation and that these are the correct actions. Okay. Now go take those actions. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, like, we were talking about, like, is it SOC-less? The SOC is still going to be there. Mm-hmm. The function of find a bad thing and make it go away, that doesn't go anywhere, right? That stays. But how much is a human in the middle making those pieces like, oh, I found it. Do you need a human for that? Right. And maybe the right answer is it's not you need them 99.9% of the time to be augmented AI, autonomous AI, and that last 0.1, because it's not like that 0.1 isn't a massive amount of things, right? Mm. And then now you get into the response, right? And so like I said, I'd be thrilled to go to RSA next year and see these towers within threat starting to get stitched together, where my pen agents are talking to my exposure agents, which are talking to these agents, but then beyond into my defensive controls, right? Like the identity folks are in there. Like, and I'm just going to stay in RSA in the security land, because we can take this into AI ops in a couple of areas. But like, if we're going to RSA, I'd love to see SOCs talking autonomously to the identity programs. Like, hey, I need these reset, kind of like the quarantine example. All of the controls as it relates to data, application security. Right, we've got good tech in those areas, but I want their agents talking to the threat agents. And then if I could bundle the whole thing together, why are we filling out spreadsheets and reporting on risk? Let's do that in real time too. Like we talk about continuous controls, monitor, right? And we love it as an idea, but it's too hard. Things change. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm not doing it. An agent's going to do it. And those agents can go talk about things way faster than you and I can talk about, right? So like, is that next year? Maybe a little aggressive for everybody, but I think we're going to see pockets of that, right? And that's, that's what we're working on. Like that's what we want to try to bring together, so that we have not just a threat program, but we have an entire cybersecurity program, right? That is autonomously working, and the humans are, working on a service delivery layer and operators and command and control and that tuning and prompting and things like that, and then overall governance and risk and compliance, right? We just see that like there's a place for this digital labor, and it uniquely applies itself to our problem set. So I'm hoping.
Wow.
See a bunch of that.
That's a mic drop moment, right? For sure. But no rest for the weary. You continue on past RSA. What are you excited about over the next weeks and months, and what's on your agenda, your calendar, your radar?
Yeah, well, we're coming to your part of the world. We'll be in Boston for Think in a couple of weeks. Got some exciting things to showcase and some demos around the things I've been talking about around, autonomous investigation and response, and just how can you apply Gen AI and agentic AI to the threat problem. Hopefully we'll see you there, and hopefully we'll hear.
I hope so. I have to check my email for the invite, but I look forward to it. Thanks for choosing our neck of the woods. And thanks so much for sharing know, the vision, it's really transformative and so exciting.
Yeah, appreciate you having us on. Love to do it.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening, watching, and sharing the episode. And be sure to check out our TV show, techimpact.tv, on Bloomberg Television and Fox Business. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Evan.